Do you want him back as you're starting right back in 2020?
He's under contract for 3 more years. You can ask Joe tomorrow.
Do you want him back?
You can ask Joe tomorrow. I'm not the personnel. I'm not in charge of personnel.
I almost expected to make this video because about a month ago, I made a video called "The New York Jets Are Lying to Us About Le'Veon Bell." And you have to understand, I don't just come out of nowhere and claim that a team is lying to us. You know, that's a pretty big accusation. And yeah, sure, there were obvious signs that he may have had hamstring discomfort, but for the most part, at least from my perspective, it appeared as though the New York Jets were trying to push out Le'Veon Bell after signing a $52 million contract. So what's going on, guys? Your boy Mike here. Before we get to the content, I'm giving away PlayStation 5s on this account, my Twitter, and my Instagram. The Twitter and Instagram giveaways are in the description down below, but for this account, all you have to do is subscribe and turn on my notification bell. And if you want to also sack that like button for the YouTube algorithm, that would be greatly appreciated. After all, this is our second video of the day, man. Who would have thought? We made a video on Michael Irvin's fantastic career earlier if you want to go watch that after this, but we have to discuss Le'Veon Bell here. So now that we got all that out of the way, break! Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? Guys, the New York Jets are officially the biggest train wreck that I have ever seen in my entire football analysis career that has been going on for the past, 8 months. So, yeah, they're a pretty big freaking train wreck. And I have to be honest, I'll tell you when a train wreck typically bothers me. Whenever I see talented youth being mismanaged in any offensive system at all, I get really angry because now not only are you ruining the team, but you're ruining the lives and the careers of promising players. And in the New York Jets instance, the number one player I think of when it comes to absolute mismanagement is Sam Darnold. I'm hearing him in trade rumors literally a mere 2 years after being drafted. And of course, any moron that decides to do, maybe 2 seconds of research sees that Sam Darnold has regressed. He's thrown 3 touchdowns to 4 interceptions for a 59% completion percentage. And they're going to blame Sam Darnold over Adam Gase. But that's not really the case. Not at all whatsoever. The reason why the New York Jets are so freaking bad is because of Adam Gase. And there's so many videos on how horrific of a head coach Adam Gase is. I highly recommend Set the Edge's video on him because he covers him perfectly. And I think what really drives me crazy about this roster is it's clear that Adam Gase isn't the coach for this team. And you could tell a coach isn't the proper coach for his team when he tries to force the players on the roster to do something that they're clearly not good at doing. I said in my last video, and this was my theory, and I feel like this theory has officially been proven correct with the news that we received today, that Adam Gase was doing whatever it took to push Le'Veon Bell out of the New York Jets because he just simply didn't want him there. He wanted to prove to the New York Jets that his contract wasn't necessary. He has a $52 million contract, and the Jets don't really need him. They could lean on Frank Gore. After all, Frank Gore was with Adam Gase when Gase was with the Miami Dolphins, and he did pretty freaking good, especially for a halfback that's on the wrong side of 30. And guys, you gotta give credit where credit's due because guess what? Adam Gase was absolutely right. In about 5 games where Frank Gore has played for the New York Jets so far and 64 rushes, he's averaging the exact same yards per carry average as Le'Veon Bell last year. 3.2. 3.2 is the yards per carry average that both Frank Gore is averaging this year and Le'Veon Bell averaged last year. And it's absolutely bizarre to me because according to a report we received today, the New York Jets are officially trying to trade Le'Veon Bell. But if you're trying to trade Le'Veon Bell, you're not going to get people that are going to bite on a halfback with a $52 million contract after he rushed for a 3.2 yards per carry average in his first year with the club and a current 3.6 yards per carry average in his second year with the club. And it's really such a shame because at this point, he's essentially making Le'Veon Bell look like a shell of his former self, and then he's expecting someone to come and pick him up. And that's what's really frustrating about the worst general managers and the worst head coaches in the NFL, especially in Adam Gase, because a smart general manager knows that they need to increase the value of their assets as much as they possibly can if they do want to trade them. My favorite instance and my favorite example of this is the Stephon Diggs trade. If you remember, Stephon Diggs wanted out of Minnesota for quite some time. All of last year, he was complaining about his role on Minnesota, and he was giving us these cryptic messages throughout the entire season. But did the Minnesota Vikings opt to trade Stephon Diggs? No. As a matter of fact, Stephon Diggs had the greatest season of his entire career last year, in his final year with the Minnesota Vikings. It was almost as if they told Kirk Cousins to target him more. And what was the result of that? Well, for a player that was drafted in the 5th round of the 2015 NFL Draft, the Minnesota Vikings were able to trade Stephon Diggs to the Buffalo Bills for a 2020 first-round pick, which was used on Justin Jefferson, a 2020 fifth-round pick, a 2020 sixth-round pick, and a 2021 fourth-round pick. They didn't just panic sell on Stephon Diggs. They told him, you're going to finish out the year with this roster. We're going to try to make a run for the Super Bowl, and we will trade you in the offseason if the right deal comes along. And on top of that, it was genius because the draft class that year was probably the most loaded NFL draft class that we've ever seen since the 2014 NFL Draft. And a lot of analysts were right. If you look at the wide receiver rankings currently, Chase Claypool finished in the top 10 at the time of this video for the amount of touchdowns he scored in the NFL this year in his rookie year, and CeeDee Lamb is 5th in the league currently for receiving yards. Justin Jefferson has 30 less yards than Stephon Diggs, as he has 371 to Stephon Diggs' 403 yards on the year. He's averaging a little bit more yards per reception than Diggs. But regardless, you don't have to pay Justin Jefferson as much as you have to pay Stephon Diggs, so you could essentially say that the production was replaced completely for a fraction of the cost. That's exactly how you're supposed to manage your assets as a general manager in the NFL. But in Adam Gase's case, he's doing the exact opposite. He's absolutely destroying Le'Veon Bell's trade stock, and he's starting to do the same with his quarterback. We're hearing reports that the Jets would take Trevor Lawrence with the top pick if they had the opportunity to do so. But what does that even solve? If you mismanaged a fairly raw rookie's career already within the first 3 years of acquiring him, what makes you think that you're not going to mismanage one of the greatest quarterback talents to ever come into the NFL draft since possibly Andrew Luck? Andrew Luck's career was mismanaged as well, and as a result, he retired early. Here's what Adam Gase had to say in regards to Le'Veon Bell being disgruntled with the organization. I know he's frustrated that we haven't won. It wasn't necessarily the plan of not targeting him in the past game. It just kind of ended up being that way with how they were playing us. So that's what it is. I mean, just try to find ways to move the football. That's all we're trying to do. And it doesn't always go exactly as planned. It appears as though no matter what weapons you give Adam Gase, there's no use whatsoever. Don't tell me that the New York Jets don't have weapons, because they have some legitimate studs on offense. Jamison Crowder and T. Higgins seem to be very promising pieces. Le'Veon Bell is definitely capable of a 1,000 plus yard rushing season if you don't just run him in halfback dives consistently, and they recently drafted a left tackle to protect Sam Darnold. But through Adam Gase's poor play calling and horrible play design, none of these pieces have a chance. So who's the most likely to trade for Le'Veon Bell? Well, there are 3 teams that pop into my head, and I'm just gonna go in order of least likely to most likely. The least likely being the New England Patriots. And the reason why I think this is very unlikely is they just recently drafted a halfback in Damian Harris. Bill Belichick doesn't strike me as the type that will ever invest in a halfback. I don't think he ever has. And you're going to have to pay Le'Veon Bell's remaining $8.5 million guaranteed salary. It just doesn't seem like a Belichick thing to do. Next, you have the Chicago Bears, who have been kind of looking for an answer at the halfback position. David Montgomery seems fairly promising. Tariq Cohen was their gadget pass-catching halfback, but it seems as though that position is open because, well, he's out for the season with an injury. So that's a potential stop for Le'Veon Bell as well. I think the top option is possibly the Arizona Cardinals because they could afford to pay Le'Veon Bell the remainder of his salary. They already are invested in their offense by bringing in DeAndre Hopkins, and Kyler Murray is still on a rookie scale contract, so it just makes sense to me. And of course, Kyler Murray could use as much help as he can in form of a rushing attack, although because Kenyon Drake and Chase Edmonds have been fairly inconsistent so far. So let me know in the comment section down below where you think Le'Veon Bell is going to get traded to. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.